Hello and welcome to the Success podcast with your host Hussein Talib. I am excited to introduce you to a series of conversations with some of the most successful and inspiring individuals from various industries. My aim is to dive into the stories behind their success and explore the knowledge, strategies, habits, mindsets, and wisdom that have propelled their success. Each episode of the Success podcast will feature a different guest who will share their unique journey, the challenges they faced, and the lessons they have learned along the way. I will also be covering topics from entrepreneurship and innovation to leadership and personal development. Whether you are an inspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business professional, or just someone looking to improve your life, the Success podcast is for you. My goal is to bring you valuable insights and inspiration that will help you achieve your own success in business and life. So get ready to learn and be inspired. The Success podcast starts now. In this episode, I have with me Christian Espinosa. He is a best-selling author and entrepreneur, excels in cybersecurity and real estate. He inspires others to harness their innate wisdom. An adventure enthusiast, Christian has completed 24 Ironman triathlons and 2 of the 7 summits. Oh, wow, that's you are like some kind of a Superman, huh? Embodying transformative leadership and relentless exploration. We are going to be talking about how he built his business in the cybersecurity space, how he started over now, and how he sold that business. So, Christian, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Hussein.
I want to know a little bit about what you did in the Ironman, and you participated in like not just one, not just two, not three, not five, not 10, 24. So that's a lot. But first of all, because this is the Success Secret podcast, and you've been through a lot, you built businesses, you sold businesses, you started over. What does success is to you, and how do you see other people have certain misconceptions what success is?
I think success is highly personal, is how you define it. So for me, success is when I feel like I'm progressing in my health, my wealth, in my relationships. And it's also when I feel like I'm comfortable with who I am and where I am. That's a measure of success to me. The other aspect of success is I like to have enough, health, wealth, and solid relationships where I can kind of do what I want to do and not be under the thumb of somebody else. That's how I define success.
Let's talk a little bit about. I want to go to and talk about how you build your businesses in cybersecurity space and how you start over. But first, I want to get the stories of the Ironman because and you climbed, I think, 2 summits of the 7 summits in the world. So that's these achievements are not really easy achievement on the personal level. So why are you that much invested in being involved in an Ironman competition, let's say, and you not just did it once, you did it 24 times. So that's you are like a Superman kind of.
Well, I started off doing triathlon as a bet. A friend of mine who's very competitive bet me uh, to race him in a triathlon. And I never even knew what a triathlon was. And I didn't know how to swim. So I learned how to swim. I borrowed a bike. And then I beat him at the race, which is great because he's a good smack talker. And it's nice to kind of quiet him down a little bit. And then after that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do another triathlon because it gave me a purpose for working out. I used to just go to the gym and lift weights and do stuff. But when you train for a triathlon, you have to get better at swimming, better at biking, better at running. And then I just kind of kept doing them. And then I was like, okay, I've done a quarter distance. I've done a half distance. I might as well do a full distance one. And then once you do a full distance one, which is a full Ironman, it's 140.6 miles. Then after that, you're like, okay, now what? I guess I'll do another one because they're in cool locations and it's a very transformative experience. It's not easy, like you say. It's a lot mental, physical, a little bit spiritual. So it's like putting yourself through that sort of pain for a day and the preparation leading up to that, to me, has really transformed me and my resilience. It's made me much more resilient because when you complete an Ironman or anything difficult, it makes you realize you're much more capable than you thought you were. Most of our limitations, almost all of them, are self-imposed. And we do something very challenging, you come to terms with that's self-imposed, and your limitations are just, something you've made up.
Exactly. Like we put a lot on ourselves, we limit ourselves without even, let's say, trying. Now, sometimes we think that certain things require work, but life in general requires work. Like you have to walk to a certain place. Now, the amount of effort differs from one thing to other, but eventually there is some kind of effort. So we need to put ourselves in a place that we push ourselves a little bit more and more every day. So that's the, let's say, the purpose of our lives is to go in a higher level of ourselves every day. That's very important. So now, in regards to business, when we talk about cybersecurity, when you started your business the first time, didn't you think that this is something that is hard, or did you think like what your thoughts on the Ironman competition? Let's say, I can learn, I can do, or do you already have some experience in regards to cybersecurity and how it works and how it's done, or did you have some help starting that business? How did that start?
So I did freelance work for about 6 years, where I traveled the world teaching cybersecurity courses and doing penetration testing, which is ethical hacking. And I was doing it as a solopreneur. I was making a lot of money, but I got bored with it. I worked like 6 or 7 months a year and took the rest of the time off. But I got bored. I felt like it wasn't growing and it wasn't challenging enough. So I thought, okay, one way to really challenge me to grow is to start my own business and hire up people and try to grow the business. And that's what I did. And I made a lot of mistakes, like probably every mistake you could possibly make. I made with bad hiring decisions, not understanding sales, not understanding marketing, not having systems in place. But through that process, I grew a lot. And that's really what I was seeking, is that personal growth. I think it's very important to invest in yourself and grow so you have more skills tomorrow than you have today. And I fortunately was able to sell that company in 2020. And then I had an exit, and then I started a new company, Blue Goat Cyber, just a couple years ago.
So why did you think that you don't want to continue with the business that you already started? Because you thought to yourself you got an offer that was compelling enough for you to sell and get this amount of money, and you already, of course, have the experience of building a similar company. So thought to yourself, yes, it would be this time. It would be a little smoother this time to build up the business that is similar to what the one that I already have.
I was getting kind of burned out, to be honest, when I sold my first business, and then it was during COVID. So 40% of my business was training. We did in-person cybersecurity training. So because COVID happened, that line of business went away. And then we did medical device cybersecurity testing and assessments. And a lot of manufacturers, because of world uncertainty, were not making buying decisions. So financially, the company was struggling a little bit. I had to let some people go because of the COVID and lack of training. And the opportunity just came up to sell the company. And I thought, okay, maybe this makes sense at this juncture because of the COVID situation, my personal situation. So I decided to sell the company. I worked for the parent company for a little over a year, and then started my company after my non-compete was over with them, a couple years later, at this company. And I'm trying to do everything in this company much different than I did in the first company, because I really didn't have a plan. I just sort of went for it, and that's kind of like who I am. I tend to, like, if I want to do something, I just start doing it and figure it out while I'm doing it. I don't try to overly plan and perfect the steps. I just step into it and try to do it.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing message for people who are having an idea for a business, just to stop planning, because if we keep planning, we will never go into action. It's important to dive in and start, because if you are not in the, let's say, in the field, you would not know what's required, what's working, what's not working, and that made you now switch gears, let's say, into what you are doing now with the medical space in cybersecurity. So when you had this idea, did you see that there's some kind of missing, let's say, missing points or certain things that were not covered that you thought, yes, I have this solution for this kind of medical in regards to cybersecurity?
In my first business, which was started in 2014, we did some medical device cybersecurity work. So I developed that skill set with my team and myself. Then the parent company didn't really want to pursue that, and I wanted to pursue it. So I decided to start this new company, Blue Goat Cyber, and focus on medical device cybersecurity. The reason is, from a business perspective, it's more of a blue ocean strategy. There's not a lot of competitors in medical device technologies in that space for cybersecurity. Whereas if you're trying to do cybersecurity for, web applications, there's like thousands and thousands of competitors, which sort of commoditizes your offering. Um, and it's much harder. It's much more challenging as well in the medical device space. And for me, a couple years ago, I developed blood clots in my left leg and went to the emergency room, and I was quickly diagnosed with a medical device. If sometimes I think if that device wasn't there or it had been compromised, I may not be here. I could have died because they may have delayed my diagnosis. So I'm also passionate about it because I think medical devices can save someone's life, and if they're compromised, they can always also kill somebody. Whereas, on a web application, if someone steals your credit card information, it's an inconvenience, but it's not nearly as big of a deal as obviously someone hacking into a drug infusion pump and killing you.
Accident happened to you through your visit with what happened with you on your leg, and that, for example, medical device that been used, there is a way for it to be improved in a way, right? So like this is the first time I hear this from you. Like I never thought of these things in this way. So that's very interesting. And what you mentioned about it's being a blue ocean strategy, like it's important also, you can succeed in a competitive market, but also if you can be one of the few that enter a low competitive marketplace, it's better for the business and you would be kind of a unique to the business, right? So now I'm sure maybe you have some kind of competition, maybe in what you are doing now, but what is it that you think from your point of view and the business is you are doing that you excel at that your competition is not doing?
A couple things. I wrote a book about this with my first cybersecurity journey. In cybersecurity, there's a lot of high IQ people. They're super like rationally smart, but they either don't have any people skills or they have a little bit. So they make clients feel unappreciated and not heard and not understood. So my team not only has the high IQ, they also have the high EQ or people skills. So when we interact with clients, we're delivering not just a report, but we're delivering an experience that builds relationships. So these clients become long-term clients rather than a one-time project. So
Mom.
that's one of the things. And then my team is highly specialized in medical device cybersecurity. A normal cybersecurity firm will not understand the requirements from the FDA, the EU MDR, all the specific niche things for this industry. And that's what we have invested our time learning, and we are very good at.
So that's very important. What you mentioned is like it's great in cybersecurity space. It's important to have IT people and people who are in the computer science space that are very smart in what they are doing, but also you want them to be emotionally smart in regards to dealing with people because sometimes this kind of job might not involve just the team, it might involve other also the people that are maybe using the things that you are developing, right? So that's very important whether with each other or maybe outsiders. So this is very important that you looked at, which is nowadays I think it's very like having this approach to business is very important, specifically now going on forward because everything there is some kind of a lot of everything, I guess. So you need to be unique in a way, and one of the things that you can be unique is actually be human. And the first, this is the first thing that is like with AI and a lot of things, which is I think it is very helpful, but also you have to put the human touch in it. That's very important. What that do you think that are important in your opinion that business owners or entrepreneurs might find beneficial if they want to start a business or if they are in the journey of growth, let's say?
So, from my experience, what I think is one of the most important things, if you're going to get into business, to be an entrepreneur, is to really understand your offering, your market, and your messaging. I think the messaging is the most critical. One of the things I did, which is very useful, is this thing called brand script. It's based on Donald Miller's story brand framework, which really focuses you in on understanding your client, your market, your messaging, and then also position you as a guide, whereas the client is the hero in the story. I think one of the things a lot of small businesses do is they like to just brag about how great they are, but that's off-putting to clients. Clients want to hear how you can make them great or solve their problem. They don't want to hear how great you are. So I think that is extremely important. And then niching down, going to the exercise will force you to niche down because you will truly understand the market you're in. When I built my first cybersecurity business, I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought everybody needs cybersecurity. I'm going to build a cybersecurity business, offer everything, and people will show up. Nobody showed up. And it was very eye opening that just because someone needs something doesn't mean they're going to come to you. Because I was trying to market to everybody, which was basically marketing to nobody because my messaging was diluted and it wasn't resonating with anybody.
To have some kind of a focus is very important, especially now, like we talked about, there is a lot of competition in almost everything in the world, in every product or service. So to niche down in a way that you are unique to the marketplace, like what you are doing now in regards to the medical cybersecurity business, which is very impressive actually. So in your way throughout your careers and working with cybersecurity, which is a big deal nowadays, like you mentioned, if some financial data were stolen, yes, it is not the end of the world, but it
Mhm.
is an issue for a lot of people. You don't want that to happen to you. So, uh, of course, right? So, what would be in, like, let's say, maybe the things that you focus on in the cybersecurity space business that you ensure certain things that are would not be allowed for infiltrators? You talked about ethical hackers, but do you think that when we talk about ethical hackers also, these are the people who are working behind the scenes in the businesses like yourself maybe, or the employees that you have, to forbid regular hackers, let's say, from using the financial data or the medical data of the customers, right?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges of cybersecurity is you can think you have great defenses and all these controls in place to keep out the criminals, but you don't really know. So, like Ronald Reagan in the US has this phrase like trust but verify. I think we want to trust we have the right controls in place and our financial data or medical devices secure, but we also want to verify it. And the way to verify that is to hire an ally, like a white hat hacker or someone like my company, to try to break into your environment. Because if we can get in, then obviously the cyber criminals can get in because we use the same tactics. But if we get in before they do, we can tell you how to fix those holes and close those gaps in your environment.
Throughout your business, for real, building a business, selling it, and now starting this one, what is the worst advice that someone that have ever told you?
The worst advice? I don't know that you get a lot of advice when you start a business. Advice starts coming from everybody, and I generally ignore everyone's advice unless they are further along than I am. Like, I'm not going to take financial advice from someone making less money than me. I'm not going to take health advice from someone less healthy than me. I'm not going to take relationship advice from someone that doesn't have an ideal relationship or the relationship is not better than mine. I may listen to them, but the advice goes with kind of a grain of salt. And when I started my company, most people tried to talk me out of it. That's probably the worst advice I got. Most people are like, why are you leaving your solopreneur work? Why are you leaving your full-time job when you're making all this money? You've got 3 weeks vacation, you've got benefits, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't care. This is what I want to do. And they would constantly try to talk me out of it, just saying I'm risking everything. I'm going crazy because they wanted me to stay in the same kind of job they were in, and that's that's probably the worst advice I received is listening to those people for a while and kind of second guessing myself.
You would recommend to not listen to people who especially, let's say, oppose you, because we as a humans, we live one life and we should have some kind of a take some risks from once in a while, right? So this is very important. Like eventually you if you did not take the risk, you would not know where you would go or how far you would go.
Yeah, that's right. I think taking risk is important. I think making decisions is important. I think staying in the same position, if you're miserable, that's your choice. You have nobody else to blame but yourself. We like to blame our company we work for, our boss, if we're in a relationship and it's not good, we blame our spouse. It's it's constantly blaming other people, but we have agency over our life, and we need to make the decisions to change our life. Regardless of what other people think, it's up to us. Nobody cares about your life more than you do. Nobody cares about your health more than you do. Like with me, when I had those blood clots, when I've had health issues, the doctors gave me some advice, but they're not me. They don't care about my life as much as me. So I will take their advice, but I will ultimately make my own decisions. And I think if we all shifted our mindset from like, stop listening to all the noise out there, kind of silence the dialogue and make our own decisions, we'd be much better off.
Eventually, it's true. Like we are the only one mainly responsible for our life and what we do with it in regards to business and life itself. Because some people, like you said, some people would try to put you down. Most of people, that what happens, unfortunately, for multiple reasons. And some people would actually encourage you, but eventually, it's your decision to choose what you are going to do, because that's important, because we would not know the results of what we are thinking of unless, like you mentioned, we take actions toward it, which is the most important thing in general, in business and in life also. So that's what should be done. We should not be afraid of like being in this circle or zone of comfort, I guess. So what do you think, or would you
100%.
yeah, what tools or resources or books would you recommend to people to see or watch or read, do you think, are the best in your opinion?
Well, there's a lot of them out there. I think Think and Grow Rich is a classic book to read. It's not just about being rich, financially, but rich in life. I think that's a good book. One of the best books for me was Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and the psychology behind that. I think that's a really great book. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Recently, I've been watching these videos. I think it's by the School of Hard Knocks, where this guy, it's his channel. He's like in his early 20s, and he goes to interviews very successful people, multimillionaires and even billionaires. And he asks them questions, and it's very enlightening to hear what these people have to say about like what advice they would give to their younger self, or what advice they give to the younger generation, or what's the most important thing they've learned. And for me, I watch like those maybe once like 30 minutes a day or something. That's something that's helped me a lot and shifted my perspective.
So speaking of that, what would be your, let's say, your final takeaway for people who are listening to this episode?
I think the final takeaway is if you're stuck in the story of your life, which you've created, and you don't like your story, change your story. We often get in this thing and say, I am this is who I am, blah, 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 blah. But if it's not making you happy or not making you fulfilled, change your story. And this could go even someone, I talked to a lot of people. I used to coach a lot of people, and people would say their story would be, I'm someone that doesn't believe in divorce, as example. And they would be married in a miserable relationship for 20 years. And they're like, well, I still don't believe in divorce. I'm like, are you willing to be miserable and your spouse miserable for 20 years, 20 more years, because you won't change your story? So I think it's important to understand, like we said earlier, you have agency over your life. And sometimes we have this narrative or dialogue going on in our head that we think defines who we are, but that's made up. We make up who we are. We make up our identity. We make up, most of what we project to the world. And that's all malleable. It is if you believe in a growth mindset.
We always, as human, we need to strive to do more and better for ourselves every day. So, Christian, where
Yes.
can people learn more about you and see what you do?
Yeah, they can learn more about me on my personal website, christianespinosa.com. They can learn about my cybersecurity business on bluegoatcyber.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, and my books are on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Christian, for joining me for this episode of the podcast. Really insightful knowledge, and you sharing your story from building a business to selling and to starting over again. And I would say that it's very important for anyone that have an idea for a business or whatever kind of idea, is to, one of the important things is to actually dive into it and start taking action instead of just keeping on planning and having it on paper, which is not going to go anywhere. Thank you very much for joining.
Taking action is the most important part, like you said, 100%.
Definitely. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Hussein. I appreciate it.